Hi, friends. Welcome to chapter 17 of Streams to the River and River to the Sea, chapter 17. Before we started the next morning, Captain Clark came to the tent where Charbonneau was stretched out in front of the fire eating his breakfast. Captain Clark was wrapped in a buffalo robe against the cold. His eyes looked angry. "What happened last night?" he asked. "Sergeant Ordway tells me that he found you in one of the canoes, about to bid us farewell. Was that true?" Charbonneau had a quick answer. "Shoshone here. She wake Charbonneau. She cry many tears. She beg take her back to Minatory. She afraid of Blackfeet. Afraid for baby. Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau." Captain Clark waited for me to say something. I put Miko in his cradleboard and said nothing. I had learned. I had been warned to hold my tongue. "My wife, she's Shoshone, afraid everything," Charbonneau said. "We leave now. Sorry, too bad." "You can leave if you want to. I'll pay you the money we owe," Captain Clark said. "But you cannot take a canoe. We need every one we have." Charbonneau grumbled. "Me walk, huh?" "You walk," Captain Clark said. "Long way." "Yes, a very long way." Captain Clark turned his back on us and went down to the river. Charbonneau ate the last piece of his boiled buffalo. He picked it up, held it in his jaws, and cut it in two with his knife. Then he wiped his mouth on his beard and went to fold our tent. That wouldn't make a very good napkin, would it? Wiping your mouth on your beard? Ugh. As soon as he was gone, I followed Captain Clark. He was putting the things he had gathered the day before in his canoe. "I don't want to see you go," he said. "The men will miss you. You've kept up their spirits. They tell themselves, if a girl with a baby on her back can do this day after day, then we can too. They keep going when they would like to quit." "Charbonneau did not speak for me," I said. "He lied when he told you that I woke him in the night and wept and begged him to take me back to Fort Mandan. It was a lie, Captain Clark. I did not weep and I did not beg." "Do you want to go with us?" he said. "Yes." "But you're afraid of what Charbonneau will say." "No, of what he will do. He has a bad temper." "We need you," he said. "The journey has been hard so far, but from here on into the high mountains, it will be worse. Dangerous. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "I understand." "And still you want to go?" "I do." "I'll not hold it against you if you turn back. You'll be safe. The baby will be safe. You're sure you want to go?" There was nothing that would make me turn back. Wherever he led, I would go. "Yes," I said, "I am sure." Dawn was breaking. The sun shone through the trees. It turned his hair to bright copper. He looked like the god of the gods above. Charbonneau sidled up to the pirogue and tossed his blankets over the rail. He got into a canoe and took up a paddle. Cruzette, Drudier, and Captain Lewis were in the canoe. He spoke to them in a friendly voice, as though nothing had happened. He even smiled at me. He asked me when I was going to feed Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau again. "Now in buffalo country," he said. "Soon Charbonneau kill buffalo. Good food, this buffalo. Buffalo hump best. Cook big hump for Jean-Baptiste." I told him that the baby had no teeth to chew with. "When does teeth come?" I asked. Or he asked. "Not tomorrow. Jean-Baptiste, he different. Son of Charbonneau have many teeth soon. Chew buffalo like Charbonneau himself." We saw thousands of buffalo the next day. They grazed in herds on and on, all the way to the horizon. Packs of gray wolves trotted beside them, circling the herds like trusty watchmen. They were waiting for an animal to get injured or a calf to stray so they could pounce on it. Charbonneau and the hunters went out and came back with meat from 7 buffalo, enough to last us for a week. As he promised, Charbonneau brought a hump for Miko and also 3 lengths of tree peas, which are milky white intestines. Ugh. He had me stuff them with the chopped hump meat. Then he tried to feed a piece to Miko, who did not like tree peas any more than I did. So Charbonneau had to settle for feeding him spoonfuls of broth. We saw buffalo every day for another week, and the hunters brought back all the meat they could carry, which I smoked and made pemmican of. Pemmican is like beef jerky. We saw 2 Blackfoot camps. In one of them, I found a woman's tracks. They had a strange look to me until I remembered that Blackfeet cut off the toes of all their women who are loose with themselves. Yuck. That night, Captain Lewis ordered us to sleep in our moccasins, and we kept a big fire going. The Blackfeet were good at crawling up to a tent without being seen. Ugh. They were brutal, these Blackfeet. There were 3 tribes of them, the Bloods and the Piegans. It's spelled Piegans. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Piegans? And then the Blackfeet themselves. So there were 3 tribes, the Bloods, the Piegans or Piegans, and then the Blackfeet. And the Blackfeet gave their name to the other 2. They were the first to feel insulted about something, the first to break their word, and the first to steal and burn and murder. We watched for them the next day as we went up the river toward the snowy peaks far away against the sky. We saw no signs, but there was still another problem for Captain Lewis and Captain Clark. It was even more important than the hostile Blackfeet. At noon that day, we came to a wide river, not as wide as the river we were following, but swift and troubled. The river we were on, the Minnetarees called Amata Arza. The captains called it the Missouri. The Minnetarees had made a map for us showing the troubled river, which they called the river that scolds at all the others. That's a funny name for a river. Captain Lewis thought of a girl he had known for some time and named it Maria's River. That's sweet. Before we left, a deep hole was dug in the middle of an island, and everything heavy that we could do without was buried. Also some provisions, tools, and powder and lead. The red pirogue was hauled out, tied to a tree, and covered with brush so the Blackfeet would not find it. It rained all night, hard, but in the morning the land stretched away like a great silver lake. The far mountains glittered. The magpies flashed their black and white feathers. I picked a flower for Meeko to smell, but instead he opened his rosebud mouth and tried to eat it. We were at the branching of 2 large rivers. Which one would lead us to the mountains before the fierce winter storms shut them away? The captains talked for a day, but could not decide. Charbonneau said that Maria's River was the best to take, which made Captain Clark believe that the Missouri was the best. The captains talked for another day. Then they went off in different directions, climbed hills, looked through their spyglasses. When they came back, they decided to take the South Fork, the Amata Arza, the Missouri. Charbonneau and I were in our canoe getting ready to leave the river that scolds at all the others. Both the captains were walking along the shore, still not sure that we should follow the Missouri. York was in the canoe just in front of us. A breeze had come up and he was raising a sail to catch it. "What do you think?" he called back to Charbonneau. "The Missouri winds like a snake. Seems to me it winds too much." "Both wind too much," Charbonneau called to York. "Make head dizzy, huh?" Our sail caught the breeze, but York's canoe was moving away from us. Charbonneau dug his paddle deep, his huge shoulders heaved, and we came up close to York. For 3 days now, since the day the current grew strong, York was sent ashore to pull on one of the ropes. Most days he was in Captain Lewis's canoe, helping the captain as a servant, handing him a spyglass or whatever he asked for. The banks where he had to walk were thick with thorns. His feet were so swollen he could hardly move around. "You sick man," Charbonneau called to him. "Maybe you die quick. Better go home." York did not answer. "Crazy man," Charbonneau grumbled. "He's slave man. All time do what captain say, like big slave, like Shoshone." Quietly I said, "Before you married me, then I was a slave. Now I am not a slave." Not now, but soon, you slave. Soon, like crazy black man. Like Indians too. Indians every place, slaves soon." We gave our word to go with the captains, remember? To help them. Charbonneau, he say no. Shoshone say yes. Shoshone say go. Not Toussaint Charbonneau, remember, huh? The cradleboard was turned toward him. He must have reached out and touched Meeko, for my son gave his shy little laugh. Jean-Baptiste, he no slave, Charbonneau said. Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau, he no slave, see? A shadow, Charbonneau's broad paddle, hung above my head. Yes, I see. We went for a day through heavy rain, but the land was beautiful and covered with buffalo. Captain Clark said there must be more than 10,000 of them feeding on the deep grass. Our men were suffering again from the prickly pears they had to walk through. Their moccasins were so pierced with thorns that they were nearly barefoot. Captain Clark sent hunters out to gather hides to make new ones. Some of the buffalo were grazing along the riverbank. They stopped to look at the canoes, but did not flee. Hunters in the first canoe fired and killed one of them. A third and fourth shot struck an enormous bull. He started to run away, but after a fifth shot broke one of his back legs, he turned to face us. The bull hobbled as far as the riverbank and stopped. He braced himself and rolled his head from side to side, searching for the enemy. Blood streamed from his mouth. Beneath the matted forelock, his eyes were closing with death, but he braced himself and bellowed. His body swayed. He fell to his knees. A moaning gasp came from his throat, and he rolled over on his side and lay still. Charbonneau said, "Sometime no buffalo. White men kill them. No buffalo anywhere." I scraped 2 of the hides from the 10 buffalo the hunters killed, fed the fire that smoked them, and helped to make moccasins for some of the men. My husband did not need a pair because he had refused from the start to wade over slippery rocks or struggle along the bank through stands of thorn bushes pulling on a rope. Hunters killed more buffalo. Baskets of fat trout were caught and smoked. We got ready to go up the Missouri toward the great falls the Minnetarees and Mandans had told us about. Toward the shining mountains we could see against the sky, shining because they were always covered with snow. Before we left, Captain Lewis had a wonderful day. In a red willow thicket, he found a young owl sitting in a nest. It was white and no larger than his fist. He had never seen one like it before. He sat down and held it in his lap while he wrote in his journal. He wrote down how many claws the owl had and how many wing feathers, the color of its eyes, on and on. He was so excited he let his breakfast get cold. And that's the end of chapter 17. Did you notice about the part where they were deciding which river to take? If you think about our play, that's where you guys sing The Fork in the Road. That's that part. All right, see you later.